All right, we're live. We'll have to do this again anyway. All right, we're live with, I'm very excited today because we're going to talk about Venezuela, a place that you and I have a soft place in our hearts for, that has really just turned into a real nightmare. And obviously, it's been in the news recently, and it looks like Mr. Trump's turning his sights towards Venezuela. Our guest, who's going to join us in about 1 minute, here he comes today. There he is, Victor.
I'm sorry, I don't want to sound late, but
that's okay. You're live right now. You're live, buddy. Don't worry. Very exciting. You're from the New York Stock Exchange.
Yes, and in the first, the New York Stock Exchange is a great achievement. Probably the very first Latino being able to broadcast live from the floor, speaking with everybody. Now bringing the institutional people to the floor from mostly every place in Latin America. But at the end of the day, keeping humble, fighting, and trying to understand what is gonna be ahead of us in the markets. As you know, we might gonna have some important cuts next week, and obviously that's interesting to see how it's gonna rebalance every portfolio. How are you guys doing? Thank you for inviting me, though.
Well, listen, Victor, thank you. I know we've known each other for a while. Jean Van der Waal is an old friend of mine for many years. We were just talking how Venezuela used to be one of the hot stock markets. We're going to get into that in a little second. But John has worked for the Lions for many years and worked for the sovereign fund. So he has a good perspective on emerging markets in Latin America.
Excellent. How are you? How are you doing? Nice to meet you.
It's fantastic, Victor. It's my pleasure. Yeah, I want to tell you, for both Tom and I, Venezuela is a special place. I think especially for me. I actually lived there for almost 4 years, from 1980 to 1984, when I was a kid out of college. And it was just such a great place. I loved it so much. And I never imagined, really, that what happened to Venezuela could happen. I must say it really has surprised me completely. I came out of there, we all knew the problems Venezuela had, the corruption and inequality and so forth, but there was so much good, and it was, in my view, it was on the right path, and it would continue to prosper. And of course, the exact opposite has happened. So, but I must say, it remains. I have so many great memories of Venezuela, so I'm very close to it.
Victor, let me do for the audience. Let me do a quick bio and intro for you, and then we can start talking. Again, welcome, Victor. I know you're going to go into a little bit. You're the host of a Miami-based Factor Economicos, which is a part of Negocios TV. I think you had mentioned it's the largest Spanish language financial channel in the Americas, maybe the world. I think you have bigger ratings than CNBC, apparently, which is amazing. Yes. Just as a background, you started again, we'll talk about this most of the call, but you started your career in the financial markets in Venezuela. I know that you were at one point you were kidnapped at gunpoint. You had your own broker dealer, so you were very successful in the financial markets. You immigrated to the U.S. in '99 with little understanding of English. You worked your ass off, became a successful financial sales executive. Then you went into the entrepreneurial, as we all are now, entrepreneur, dove in the world of media. You're reimagining, I guess you call it, financial literacy for the Latino community, Spanish language community. Now you have a daily show on Negocios TV, which we'll talk a little bit about, and where you interview financial executives. And I really appreciate you coming on. And by the way, congratulations on all your success that you've had with your current situation. So congratulations.
Listen, I think that this is an important part, Jean and Thomas, to recognize that when you, and you guys knows that, when you have some sort of wins, like probably this win for me in life, when you're a little older, you start recognizing it gotta be something more bigger than you. So you don't need to put your ego and say, hey, it's me, I did it. No, because there is so many people trying out there to do things. Unfortunately, life never matched the opportunity. So I think, because just recently, let's say 3 months ago, I was not here. And you can imagine that being here is a major success for the community, for the Hispanic community, for my institutional peers, my friends, the ones that are going to come to Wall Street to get their pictures, to meet the specialists to understand the history of the exchange from 1792, obviously out there, and now from I think is 1904 they put the building, and now everything is coming into this type of situation like a museum. It's a great place where you not only understand what's going on, but also you make sure that you understand the people that has been working here. So for me, again, Thomas, thank you for that introduction. It's more like a kind of the universe allowing us to enter, and I want to create replacement, because at the end of the day, what I want to make sure is that other people are able to come, report, and actually things. You never win anything by yourself. It's a team tackle. It's a team effort. And as you mentioned, everybody that has been with me in the companies now, the guy that is running Negocios TV, that is also coming from time to time from Spain and also growing the platform. And as you know, and let's see if I can actually show you around so you can see around the exchange, because you follow me. We are here at the New York Stock Exchange. So you can imagine, it's like, how come? Yeah, it's happening. It's here. And then you see there, Biden, the back, and we're gonna go there. You're gonna see CNBC, and obviously this is how it looks. So at the end of the day, when you are seeing all that, is okay. We are here. We're putting all this together, and I bet you're gonna put this on the social media. Just make sure people go and register on the New York Stock Exchange app. It's great content. See, this is what's going on. We report from here live from time to time, and as you can imagine, the adrenaline to actually being able to do that is more rewarding when you all your life, Gene, has been here. And now that being said, I'm Venezuelan, ready to step in when everything changes in my country, because we're going to need a lot of capital, a lot of things that we need to rebuild the country, rebuild Venezuela.
Victor, let's turn the clock back to your beginnings in Venezuela in the financial markets. Talk a little bit about that, your journey, and then dive into why. I know you have a Venezuelan fund, and you're looking at these opportunities, as obviously I am as well, and there are others. But start at the beginning, your historical perspective on Venezuela, what happened. You don't have to go into a lot of detail, and then why now? Why after all those years from 1999 till today, things have 26 years. A lot of changes. So what has happened? So let's go back in history and let's get right into what's going on in the country from an investor standpoint, opportunity standpoint.
Listen, we're gonna basically try to articulate, because most of the people that are gonna listen to this podcast, when and if get ready out there, obviously for future reference, they might listen something like this to understand the trajectory, to see if it makes sense to step in when and if the country change. So back in 1999, we were facing some major problems that now that you understand a little bit myself, global macro, you understand that they needed to do a lot of things to make sure that the country can, go on and keep not only a functioning properly, but bringing in investors from overseas. Everything changed when obviously President Chavez did, before being president, a coup d'etat on 1992. So that coup d'etat basically derailed the democracy that was there for 50 years. But at the end of the day, that's the other thing you need to understand. Democracy normally has been derailed because we don't invite the population to actually, appreciate what's the system. This is the system. This is the way you make money, with the system, the capitalism system. So in order to do that, every country have to learn that you need to make sure that the middle class, the incipient class, come and have their portion. How? Saving through the capital markets. Very simple. You don't need to be a trader. You just put your savings a little bit towards that. That gap, it happened in Venezuela and in any other country, and it allowed a vacuum of opportunities for the guys from the left. And I gotta say honest, the liberal, the progressive. So Chavez entered towards that. He actually got a lot of attention from a lot of people that were thinking, wait, hey, listen, the democracy is dead. It's always the top. Now is the time for the masses. That's what Chavez was selling. And don't get me wrong, when you are frustrated, like sometimes you have in the US, you gotta understand that it's a very easy thing to actually gain the traction of the people that are able to vote for you down the road. When he went to power, he changed the constitution, he changed the landscape, he changed the economic factors, and he turned this not only to the left, but to a corrupted nation. Because it's not like he was cleaning, he was changing Thomas for Jean or Jean for Victor, my friends. You don't need to be anything but my friend to be able to manage big institutions. When that happened, the first 2 years, nothing was dramatic. But after 26 years, the best explanation you can tell any investor that is in this podcast is how come the country with the biggest oil reserves in the world is like this? And then you got to understand it's not broke. It's just that they don't know how to handle it. And why you, Mr. Investor, are seeing this and thinking how I can enter, because you have a big saving account underneath that at the end of the day is currency. And then you can probably step in with some boots on the ground, some sort of managers that are actually from Venezuela that might be in Caracas, which is the capital, that might entice you to enter whether in private equity, on the public markets, when and if everything change, and that might be an opportunity. But down the road, at the end of the day, from 1999 to 2025, 26, when we see changes, it's just that they derail the economic, let's say, structures, and they also create the most corrupted, potentially Latin American country ever, trying to keep them in power, partnering with Cuba, Nicaragua, any other of the government that at the end of the day are not aligned with the G7. Let's put it that way. And that being said, there is a lot of things that need to happen, Gene, to make sure we can even get closer back to the 1980s, 1990s, and 1970s. That's the explanation, Thomas, in a nutshell.
Victor, are you? Do you have reason to be optimistic that something will change in Venezuela, either a regime change or a change in the economic system that would allow investments to come back in?
Listen, the last thing you have to lose is the hope. I think hope is the only thing that keeps us going. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily on Venezuela, but on our day-to-day life. As you can understand, we all have obstacles, and we all have the hope we can overcome that obstacle. I don't want to tell you that I'm not optimistic, but I'm realistic. Mm-hmm. How do you going to change the country if you don't get into and have some other people waiting for you to change it? And as I've been seeing now, you have the pressure of the military in the U.S. trying to go after the drug dealers and so on. But is that enough to change the regime and to give this to the new people that am going to change the country? I'm not quite sure. That being said, in every change, there is volatility, and every volatility, there is opportunity. How you can basically participate on it? You have to do your homework, because the first thing that needs to change is the law. So you can actually include Venezuela in your radar screen for investment by, let's say, OFAC or any of the other organizations that allow you to actually invest in country. Secondly, what specifically industries might basically overcome the obstacle faster? Obviously, the oil companies might end up pumping some oil, so everybody will go towards that. What else? Technology, because it's a country that has been collapsing for 26 years. Now everything changed. Now probably with technology you can catch up. And then probably the technology that can affect few things. I don't want to enter into that, but we have a lot of artificial intelligence and a lot of people thinking how I can solve problems in Venezuela. The third thing is the people. And let me tell you the why to you, Mr. Investor, not only to Thomas and Jim. With all respect, we are all Latinos in the U.S. But when you are an employer and you see that a Venezuelan is applying, you get the resume. Why? Because it tends to happen that Venezuelans work hard and they are basically put an extra mile. So that passion, as you can see me, and again, I got to say I'm Venezuelan loud here in the floor. So obviously, and a proof, life proof of that Venezuelans can do something, obviously is interesting for any investor that wanted to invest in people. But at the end of the day, it's very difficult, Jim, and optimistic, but unrealistic. But at the end of the day, everything will happen and it will change. Whether we like it or not, it will change. It will bring new opportunities, new people, and probably the people that are seeing this podcast have to be there ready for those opportunities on private equity, public markets, investment within the country, PP3, stuff like that, that actually make sure that they have some sort of return on investment.
But I wonder what is your perception of the current situation of the politics in Venezuela? Is the regime weakening? Is there some kind of dynamic towards a weaker regime that could lead to an opening, or is the regime completely entrenched?
It's difficult because what you also have to understand is that the regime, whether we like it or not, has been preparing for worst cases scenario. If I drill you, Thomas, and Eugene, to, hey, in case of earthquake, you do this. And after drilling you so much, you are just waiting. Okay, they might do this or this or this. This is what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm telling you, just the 101 of a strategy. You are announcing, we're going. If you tell me you are coming, Thomas and Jean, I will prepare. How do you do changes more radical? When you are sleeping, if something happened. That's not the case. And that's why, even though I'm bullish on my own country and optimistic and realistic, this is something that is taking too long. And in the geopolitical war, with some sort of issues in Ukraine and Russia, which is a big backer of Venezuela, with the issues that we have with China, I mean, the G7 with China, I don't think everything can change that quickly. And if change, you got to go and try to deal with the people that are already in power so you can do a transition. But again, it's not easy because the only thing you can realize aside taxes and death is that you need people to change people. Who's the people? Am I coming back to Venezuela? Okay, let's put an example. I'm here in the New York Stock Exchange. Do I want to go to the Caracas Stock Exchange? Let's see, both. What do you think? That's obviously the answer. No, okay, no, they don't going to come back. So you got to train people in country in order to make your business feasible. Or what are you going to do? You're going to bring stuff, and who's going to buy it? How are they going to use it? How are they going to create the money to buy it? You understand that in Venezuela, you need to change dramatically a lot of things. So it's not only politically speaking, it's realistically how to do it. Unless you go only oil and you leave the country and the people on the side, which is not going to work because you need a CEO and his family, Thomas, to live in Caracas. And in order for the wife to say the guy we are going to, it's not only about money. Where the kids are going to go? Where is the club? Where is the security? Who else is coming? Those things have to be checked off so you can invest in country, whether it's in Venezuela, in Colombia, in Peru, and you know that, Thomas, in Brazil. That's it.
Victor, you have today, obviously, President Trump put a $50 million bounty on Maduro. You have 2 warships. You have some activity with blowing up some drug narco boats or whatever. I mean, this is new. This is more pressure than any other president has ever put on Maduro. So you have a fund. You have obviously a structure for a fund. Is that why you're a little more optimistic because of the timing? Is this pressure on Maduro going to lead him to find a resolution, a negotiation to leave? Because that's the only way it changes. What's your opinion there?
Thomas, and again, you are as good, Gene, as your last trade. So you are here to make mistakes, to forecast that we're going to have an interest rate cut of such and such and happen the opposite. So there is no difference with what I might say and forecast about my own country. Change is coming. It's not about if, it's about when. How? And who will be replacing Maduro, Cabello, and Padrino? Why? You need those basically top people at the end of the day, making sure that the country is functioning. Do I see an easy way for the opposition? And oh no. Why? Think now on the Republican side of the US, President Trump. Do you think President Trump, the one to probably be nominated for the Peace Nobel Prize, he wants to have some sort of 20 Marines or 50 Marines that die on an attack in Caracas? No. So Don't you think he need to do some sort of the art of the deal? So how do I put this together? How do I change this guy? Checked off that at least I changed this and the country is opening the oil. But that means realistically that the country changed. You understand that? Might change Maduro, but the country change. I mean, the country will open. Remember, if the country Jim, will open back to the capitalism that we have here in America, they're gonna end up losing their privilege. They're gonna end up losing their power. So why China is controlling Russia? Because if I open it to the American model, I lost power. Same happened in Venezuela. So it's a very logical way to understand that, which is what it made me think. How do you solve this situation? And I'm going to tell you the how. You need to make sure that before you enter into the country, you have some sort of arrangement with the military that is underneath Maduro, so you make sure that the country have an organized transition. Who was that guy? The friend of Chavez back in the days that are now underneath the power of the general that are on top of it. Were those Chavistas? Yes, yes, yes. Do I need to do a deal with them? TINA. There is no alternative. There is no alternative.
What is your perception of the military in Venezuela? How faithful are they to Maduro?
If you have a gun to your head, you will tell whatever I ask you to do. Am I right?
Sure.
Those guys have a gun to their head on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Take the gun off, say you are covered, you're safe, tell the truth. Do you think that they're going to tell the truth? Of course. So are they loyal to Maduro? Now, because they have their gun to their heads. Take the gun off. You understand? When I'm telling you, remember, I don't want to sound like ChatGPT. It's just common sense, Thomas. At the end of the day, remember, this podcast has been seen to people that are gathering information about when and if to invest in that country. But you need to check off those two things, like if you are an alternative investment manager, seeing how do I deploy money. There's the questionnaire. Do I going to have this? What are my risks? What are the areas? What might happen with the exchange, putting bolivars to work? Typical thing, but in terms of the military, I think that if this pressure, Thomas, is keep going and you see the Marines very close in proximity, at some point they're gonna break that, and at some point you're gonna say, hey, they are leaving the country. Who? Cabello, Maduro, and Padrino. And that's good. That's the beginning of an uptrend on something that is going down. But let me ask you something. When something is going down, you do a V-shaped recovery? Sometimes. Do you think Venezuela will be a V-shape? Don't know. Depends. It can be a V-shape. It can be a V-shape recovery on the country. But again, it's a process. And at least we're on the lows. So now it's like you cannot go below the floor. Are you there? Absolutely. Should you put money to work? High risk, because you can be there for a while. But am I buying at a price that have great opportunities? The biggest opportunities, probably biggest frontier market in the world with less downside risk because of the oil. Venezuela. Really? Find me another one. What do you find me? Vietnam? Cuba? Nicaragua? Really?
So, Victor,
I want another thing that I want to tell you guys that it's funny, but it's real. And again, you probably be laughing out loud, and the investors. We want so many Miss Universe and Miss World that the fact that we have one of the most beautiful women in the world will also attract, I want to go there. Really, my macro economist professor on the third year of the career, he always told me, you tend to do business when you tend to like it the most. And I'm going to tell you this joke that I put on a podium when I was one of those people speaking on the podium. We were comparing the BRICS countries, Brazil, India, Russia, and China. And I was answering a question, and then became this guy basically jumping on me and saying, why are you going to compare Brazil with such a great country like India? You see, China is the second economy. Russia is Russia. Keep talking. And I was left out of arguments. So I made a funny story that is related to what might happen in Venezuela. And it's like this. Okay, let's do a survey here. If I have 4 first-class tickets for tonight, leaving the country, one is going to Mumbai, one is going to Moscow, the other is going to Shanghai, and the fourth one is going to Rio de Janeiro. Please let me know what is your decision on that. Everybody says Rio de Janeiro. Exactly. Everybody wants to do business there. And it's going to happen. Period. Pure logic. Oh, this guy sounds like he knows stuff. No, just using pure logic. Put some money to work, leave it there. It will happen. And I'm very happy, Thomas, that you are taking the time to put all this together, because it does us the specific early things that people need to start understanding about Venezuela without going through the whole macroeconomic things. No, just use your head. That's it. Venezuela has the infrastructure being destroyed, but they have it still there. So
Victor, let me ask you, Victor, do you have any insight whatsoever that you can share on what might be the U.S. strategy here? Because I think it's pretty much left everybody confused.
I have, I'm an American citizen. I have to pledge to my fifth, which means I have the right to remain silent. That because if I start telling you all that, I will look like a used car salesman. I'm not, and I gotta be honest. Because if you tell me what are those opportunities, I might say the oil sector. Give me specifics. I didn't have any. Why? You cannot invest in country. You are in the OFAC list, and there is nothing we can do at this point. And if there is something happening, Gene, it's at that level where you don't know. Might be Elliott Management. Last week, I was interviewing Joe Hernandez. Is the CEO of an SPAC listed actually on the NASDAQ called Blue Water. He was here with me on the floor. He's actually opting to be a mayor in New York against Mandani and Cuomo and Eric Adams right now. But he's the CEO of this company. He put a bid for $10 billion last Friday, 1 week ago, for Citgo, which is the old company that is on the hands of the U.S. government for auction. So there is people willing and able to do something, but you got to do something in a very specific way.
Does Citgo doesn't have any assets in Venezuela, does it?
Regardless, it's got to be some sort of a situation that they gave them some sort of a competitive advantage because he was from Venezuela. I'm assuming, Ian, but I also got to be honest, I didn't have any insight, and I don't want to sound like I know my thing too much because no. I rather tell the audience, unlike you guys, I'm optimistic. These are the points that I think might trigger those opportunities previously to what other people might see. But all those things depends on Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. Why? They can move stuff on the Mar Caribe, on the Caribbean Sea, that might trigger changes. And they can open some sort of opportunities for a quick rebound of the Venezuelan economy. So you think that everything will go in that direction? Absolutely. So then you have to start paying more and more attention to Marco Rubio's strategy towards that.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, quick question. I got to jump because we're right on the floor. And as you know, there is several things happening. I want to basically show you guys again this because this is like a dream. Thomas, if and when Venezuela change, capital has to come to the New York Stock Exchange and to everybody that is seeing. Because obviously the New York Stock Exchange.
Well, Victor, we had some examples. I think Electrita de Caracas, wasn't it listed on the New York Stock Exchange at one point? Yeah.
Yes.
EDC.
So at the end of the day, the
Canteve,
ADR,
ABC,
yes, ADR.
Events.
And not only that,
Corimon.
there was an ADR here, I think Benaceta or Sudan Tex as well, or the briquettes of Ben Precar.
Yeah.
It was here, and they're gonna come back to the floor. They're gonna come back to the specialists. They're gonna come back to these people. So if you are seeing this and you like this view, don't forget that one day Venezuelan guys, and I'm gonna tell you guys, you can see it. Venezuelan people. I don't know if I'm gonna be invited. Probably I will. They're gonna be opening the bell. Do you think that? Boom, boom, you're gonna stamp it. They're gonna open the bell. Really? Yes. Venezuela will come back. Venezuela will come back, and you got to remember that. You got to stamp it. When? I don't know, but Venezuela will come back.
Victor, before you leave, tell everyone about your show, when they could see you, where could they go to find you, your social media, everything. How could they find you, Victor? Listen, I'll post everything in the comment section, but tell everyone.
The main point, obviously, is those guys that created ChatGPT and Google. You put my name, boom, and that's it. Second part, to brag a little bit, and to all the people, not only to you, Jim and Thomas, and like that, because that's the only way you can keep seeing this. I gotta be like a little character, okay? But then you go to Negocios TV, and then one of my programs is on Negocios TV and engaged to opening the international division. You can also see me in my social media at Victor Rodriguez 1, because Victor Hugo Rodriguez, there is many Victor Hugo Rodriguez, so somebody take Victor Hugo Rodriguez, so I got to put Victor Hugo Rodriguez 1. And that's it. Why? And I have to. Okay, if I don't find you, first Latino broadcasting live from the New York Stock Exchange. Boom. Okay, that's the guy. And again, more than doing likes, more than putting likes in this piece that's going to be reported across social media, to every investor that want to know about Venezuela, shoot me a private message so I can direct you to the real people that have already brokerage houses that is connected to Gene and to Thomas. Why? Because we need to go by regulation. They need to do a due diligence, source of funds, so on. You need to do that. Can you help me with that? Send me that request, put it in the social media that Thomas is putting together, and we will redirect you, because this is part of the due diligence questionnaire. With whom am I doing business? Are these real business? And obviously, am I have the willingness to wait to when the changes are going to come? I'm super happy, guys. I'm super duper happy. And speaking English, by the way, which is a great thing, but considering that I came with no English, no money to the country. So thank you for inviting me, Thomas. Appreciate that. I'm sorry that it was till the last minute I entered. Believe me, so many things.
Victor, thank you.
Gracias, Victor.
Jim, have a nice day. Happy Friday. Talk soon. Take care.
All right, Victor. Take care, buddy. John, that was good. I'm actually surprised a little bit that he is as enthusiastic, because I've known Victor for a while, and we've talked about Venezuela, and I've never heard him as positive. He's never heard him as positive as most Venezuelans that are living here, that are financial professionals, have been very, very negative on their country, and this is surprising to me. He's as bullish as I've ever heard him. So
is there any possible way to invest in Venezuela? If even if you were bullish and you thought within 5 years things will improve, what could you possibly do?
Right now, there are a few Canadian mining companies that have some exposure there. I used to know the names. Some of them they all have lawsuits against the government. So these people have mining rights, and they were expropriated. But as far as that's the challenging thing. They have government bonds, but you can't trade them, right? So they're illegally. You can't trade the government bonds.
Venezuelan bonds they're not
the black market. Yeah,
they're just in the black market now.
Yeah, you can't
You
trade
buy
them
them,
legally.
buy them in London or in other markets, or
I think you buy them offshore, but as a U.S. citizen or U.S. institution, you're not allowed to transact in Venezuela bonds. So the hope, what he's saying, is that you have private investment, private equity, corporate investment. The stock exchange, as you know, was incredibly dynamic. We mentioned before we started recording how both of us in the early 90s, it was one of the hottest stock markets in the world. You had IPOs in the New York Stock Exchange. I think that'll happen again. Someone just told me, a friend of mine who is a local who is buying shares, told me that the Caracas Stock Exchange is a public company, and I think the valuation is something like $150 million. Whereas, the Colombian Stock Exchange, the Peruvian, and the Chilean, they're merging, and that market cap is like a little over $1 billion. And so you see the value in just by, again, in dollar terms, having the stock exchange, which at one point was one of the hottest in the world, now worth $150 million. That's ridiculous.
if you were a Venezuelan citizen, could you bring dollars back to Venezuela and invest in the stock market there, or buy real estate? Would it be even feasible to put $1 million in Caracas real estate?
Yeah, I think you, as a local, you can do that. From a liquidity standpoint, I'm not so sure how much you could invest. Real estate is probably something you could invest in, but unfortunately, the prime, let's say residential property, et cetera, they're never going to be selling. That's how they're holding their value. So for right now, there's very little opportunity other than the commercial real estate, and that's speculation. But I think the stock market is still very illiquid. Their locals can participate, and they are participating. Things are moving there. Volume is picking up, but it's so small. You're talking about peanuts, that trade every day. But we both know that changes. Things change very quickly. Nobody, as Victor said, nobody knows the timing, but this is the first time that we've seen real pressure since Chavez took over. Real pressure from the U.S. Putting real big geopolitical pressure. And I think it's a matter of time. I think one of the issues is Maduro has to find a place to go. He can't stay there, can't go to the U.S. Spain doesn't want him.
Well, he can go to Cuba or Russia or whatever.
Russia, Turkey. So what I've heard is Turkey's available. Russia, China. There's very few options for this guy. But I think there's got to be negotiations going on because he wants to keep some of his wealth. He has his family to deal with, but he can't stay in the country with a $50 million bounty on his head. I have to think his time is limited. So, well, listen, John. Listen, that was great, and this will be on early next week, and we will go on to the next one. Thanks again.
Right. Okay, take care.